Alright guys, so it's actually kind of a crappy day, so I got the door down now. It's raining out there. So my plan today was to try and fit this front end a little bit better. Because up until now I've just kind of placed it on there and it's about where it's going to be. So so far I just kind of put it on there. I put a couple of towels under the back to kind of act as some spacers so the hood is somewhat level with the cowl there. I ended up putting a jack on the front of the block of wood to hold it up. It's a little bit higher than it has to be right now for the front end. It's about an inch off the frame horns. It seems like most cars are kind of half an inch or so, maybe 3/4. But if I have it slightly higher, it just puts a little bit more pressure to hold it, because right now it's really flimsy. So I got it set like that. I ended up buying these hood pins or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I want to have just a pin on the bottom of the clip there, like at the bottom of the fender. You know, I've seen lots of guys, they chop them off kind of halfway, bolt that to the car, and then this part goes up, because this way it's going to rub against the doors and all that, which is a pain in the ass, but that's kind of what I want. Look a little bit ridiculous. That's the plan. Hopefully have some scratches on the doors before I know it. But so what I was going to use is, I guess on the factory, I have a light here. The factory cars have the fender bolts down at the bottom. There's a big hole, which I was going to use. So you can see right here, that's how the fenders, I believe, were bolted on. It's been a while since I had this thing apart. So I was just going to thread that through there like that. Now, unfortunately, it's quite a bit bigger, so I just have some washers. So I was just going to, you know, weld a washer on there. And then that should line it up pretty close. And then once I get the back in, I can kind of set up the fender gap. It's actually, it's really big, but it's the same top and bottom pretty much. Actually a little tighter at the top, which makes sense because it is angled like that, so I can drop it down a little, get it lined up, put one pin in, go on the other side, and then I know at least this part to the door is pretty close, and I know at the top it has to go back as well, but again, it's even the whole way. I'll probably take this piece out, and then I mean, I'll be close. It's fiberglass. It's not going to fit worth shit anyways, and you know, I got to cut the center out for the scoop and everything I got to do there, but at least I can get it pretty close at the back, get my gaps where I want them. Then I can mess around with the front, raising and lowering it, and I got to figure out what the heck I'm going to do for a bracket in the front. I've seen lots of guys use gate hinges and Heim joints and all sorts of stuff, so I'll figure something out there. But right now I just want it bolted into place so it's not going to fall over, because it keeps wanting to shift side to side. So once you get those pins in, I'll kind of show you the progress, and we'll go from there. Alright, so let's show you what I did here. I actually ran a ratchet strap from the frame to the cross member, and that just, you know, put a little bit of tension to pull the hood back towards the firewall there, which ended up making the cowl opening pretty decent. And then it's kind of hard to tell, but it's, you know, a decent little fender gap and everything. So that's that. Under here, I managed to weld on a little washer. If you can see that or not. So that'll be that. I'll just kind of run the pin through, mark it where I want it, drill a little pilot hole, and yeah, I should be able to bolt it in and have at least the one side held where I want it. And I mean, it should be pretty good. Might need a little bit of trimming and adding here and there fiberglass. Right at the top corners, it's quite thick, so I think at some point someone's messed with that. But I can you know, sand it down, sculpt it to fit, and it should be fine. Alright, let's slow moving, but gap's pretty good. I managed to get the pin in. I just put this on loose. I'll have to trim this obviously because it's so low. But the pin's in, it's adjusted, so it's I mean, it's pretty close. This fender doesn't have quite the same contour as the door. I don't know if it'll show up. I mean, it just sticks out a little bit, but I kind of think that's gonna how it's just gonna be. And if you push down a little bit, it does go out. So I've seen guys also pin it up top. This thing, when I got it, had pins right here, which I hated the way they look, but well, maybe that's what it has to be if you want the perfect look. But that's good enough for me. So I'm going to get on the other side and do more of the same. It's more of the same. The other side's in. This side doesn't fit nearly as well. It's quite a big gap, and it sits high up here, but it seems like the hood has a bit of an angle upward, so it's hitting something. So when I put a little bit of pressure down on it, it flexes out, and it actually fills in the gap. So there's something right in there it's rubbing on. I'll have to together, maybe even put a slit in or do something like that to kind of fix it. And again, it's quite thick here. It's not quite down to the door, but I could definitely sand a lot of that off and make it a lot closer. But yeah, I mean, that's that. That's probably about an inch off the frame horn, so I might have to drop down maybe just a little bit. So tomorrow I'm going to be doing some figuring out, see what I can get for some sort of a latch or a hinge or something like that to get it flipped forward. But I mean, it's getting there. I don't know how close it is on a lot of these things. I do a little more research. But again, it's decent up here. It has to move over a little bit, and it's so flimsy. You can move it all over the place. So we'll see. I still got to tuck this up under, everything like that. But yeah, more progress. I think that's it for tonight. Didn't really get a whole lot accomplished, but I really took my time making sure I wasn't drilling holes I didn't need. And yeah, sure looks cool at least. So I'll be back at it tomorrow, and hopefully I'll make some more progress. Alright guys, so I'm working on the hood here, on the flip front end. I didn't do a whole lot of filming, mostly because I didn't know what I was doing, and the hood was kind of tilted up and it was pretty precarious. So yeah, it's basically kind of most of the way done. What I ended up doing is I bought some gate hinges, and I kind of just bolted those to the frame horns, and then I built a little structure out of some scrap 3/4 bar square that I had, and I just kind of went around the front there and attached to the main structure. So it seemed to work out pretty good. I'll see if I can just put you up here. So it's pretty crude, but it works. So like I said, I just ended up kind of boxing this. This is the original structure there, with some 3/4 square. And then I went on the bottom side as well, so I boxed it all around. Then I welded that to the top of the gate hinge. And then I just drilled 2 bolts into the top of the frame. I'll probably put a third right there. And I don't know if I'm going to trim that up or do what I'm going to do. And then it can kind of be slotted or do whatever, so it can kind of come on and off. And ultimately now when the hood comes off, you just got to do those bolts, and then the whole thing will come off no problem. So it seems to work pretty good. It fits the car really well. Lots of screwing around with welding and all that. There was a few, it had these little brackets here that went the whole way through in fiberglass, so I ground down the edges. And I welded up there, and like I said, just went around, tacked it all in, stitched it together. Seems okay. You know, I did the best measuring I could to center it in the car. Seems to work fine. And like I said, the hood pins still line up. The gaps around everything seem to be quite a bit better. So I'll drop this thing down, pin it together, and kind of show you the gaps. So I just got it kind of loosely mocked up. You can see the line is, you know, not bad. The gap opens and closes. It's a little wide here, so I got to figure out. This is the worst part of the whole car, but I did a bunch of research, and I mean that's kind of how it looks like they fit in the tip there, right by the door. It's pretty rough. Here it's kind of miscellaneous. That's just sitting there, so it's doing nothing. On this side here, I still have the little rags on there. It fits pretty tight there. It just needs to be taken maybe a little bit out right there. The rest of the door fits pretty decent. It could come back a bit there, but same thing. Door opens and closes, doesn't bind, so it worked out pretty good. You know, it's a little tricky. You gotta take the pins out, kind of fold both sides of the fender out, but it does seem to go forward, like you saw it. It flips up no problem. But yeah, so I gotta come up with some sort of limiting straps. I just have some ratchet straps tied to the control armrester right now. So I'm either gonna do some sort of limiting strap, or maybe some sort of like a gas shock off like a, you know, tailgate or a hood or something like that, to hold it up. I'm a little worried this thing will be blowing around, but hey, it is what it is. It sits a little high in the front. Like I wanted to go for about 3/4 of an inch, but obviously I'm 3/4 plus the gate hinge, so it's probably about an inch, which is a little more than I wanted, but it does sit up nice. And really, the higher it was, it made this gap way nicer. So I think it kind of is what it is. Compromised the best I could, but it's all together. So I'm gonna do a little bit more finish welding there, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I finished up all my little welding stuff I was going to do. So the next thing, I got to try and fit these, the hood scoop. Now they're both the exact same width, basically. This one's obviously taller. Probably easier to work with this one. So my plan was, where we are here in Manitoba, this is probably borderline not legal to have on the road. So I'm hoping I can get away with the little one. Worst case, I can risk this one here and there. So I'm gonna figure out what I can do. You know, I can do some sort of, Zeus fasteners, or maybe just nut and bolt. We'll see what happens. But like I said, they're exact same footprint and everything. So I'm gonna just center it in the hood, trace out what I want, and then probably cut out a little bit of the hood, bolt this down, and then there's a crossbar that goes side to side. So I'll have to do something like that, make a U or a square or something like that in it, because I'd like to keep some of the structure. I might even go across the back, just because I don't want it to be really flimsy when you're pulling up on it, because you're going to take a lot of structure away. But yeah, I'll keep going at it and keep you guys up to date. All right, guys. Well, as you can see, it's dark out now, so I've been messing around, kind of cleaning up a little bit. I kind of penciled out about where I want this thing. My only concern, I guess, is, like, since I moved the motor ahead a little bit, how far it's going to be. And that's pretty important, so I want to make sure the motor's kind of in there, I guess, before I go too crazy. Trying to find a center line of this was kind of a little nuts, too. I mean, everything is just round on it. There's nothing to measure off of, so I went off the rear view mirror, and then I just kind of centered this grill right there, because that's got to be pretty close to center. Marked it, and then I kind of did my outlines there. So yeah, that's that. I'd like to have that kind of as far back as I can, but again, I did space the motor ahead that inch or so, 3/4 inch, so it might have to sit ahead a little bit. Well, if I'm going to do that, I don't want to chop up all this fiberglass at the back, so I'll give it a little more strength. And I do have some wood slats through there I end up fiberglassing in, so I like to keep it as strong as I possibly can. So yeah, that kind of took a left turn, but I think that's it for this video. I'll probably be back, test fitting the grill, headlights, all that sort of stuff. Maybe start wiring that all up, because I want to build its own little wiring harness that can disconnect and all that from the rest of the car. So if I take the front end off, it won't be too big of a deal. So do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and tell all your friends. I'll see you guys on the next one.